My name is James Nieh, and I am an associate dean and a professor in the School of Biological Sciences in the Department of Ecology, Behavior, and Evolution at the University of California, San Diego. When I was young, I really enjoyed reading the books of Dr. Dolittle, who would talk to the animals. And I remember telling, I think I was in elementary school, the other kids that when I grew up, I wanted to be just like him and to communicate with the animals. I think that's a common natural thing when we're young. But when I went to college, I was trying different things and I took a course in animal behavior, specifically on honeybees was one portion of that course that really got my attention. And that summer, I actually did experiments with honeybee dance communication. And that set me on the path when I graduated to go for my PhD. And then, of course, now into my position as a faculty member. I'll actually step a little bit broader than that and ask the students this question. Why do you have to learn? Why do you have to learn language? What if you were just born speaking English or French or Spanish? And that's really at the heart of our research. Why is it that some animals, and not just humans, there are songbirds, even these wonderful creatures called naked mole rats, that actually scientists know they have to learn their language, their animal communication system to some degree. Not to the degree that humans do, but there is learning involved. So on the opposite side of that, there are animals that are born knowing how to communicate. It's all pre-programmed into their brains, which would be great, I think, for example, if I had to learn Spanish or French. But the reason for why some animals have to learn and others have it born in themselves is the fundamental reason behind my project. So why bees? Bees have a very complicated communication system, which is called the waggle dance. In fact, it's the most complicated communication system in animals that we know of, which is pretty impressive, apart from humans, of course. So we wanted to see exactly if this waggle dance could be learned or if they were just born with it, and maybe learning could improve the dance. So I should try to explain what the waggle dance is. Imagine somebody's trying to tell you how to go to the grocery store. They might say, go north for about 1 mile. What the bees are doing, they are telling each other where to go to find a food source. And so what they will do is they'll do this repeated figure eight motion. And in the middle of that figure eight, which is called the waggle dance, they do the waggle phase. So basically, they're pointing with their head in the direction of the food source. Now, the farther away the food source is, the longer they do the waggle. So imagine that she's kind of drawing a little map pointing to her nestmates, to her other bees, telling them where to go to find the food. And that's the waggle dance. Now, the waggle dance communicates three different things. It tells them which direction to go, how far to go, and also how good the food source is. If they repeat that waggle phase over and over again, the more times that she repeats it, the better the food source is. And that is their waggle communication. That's right. So imagine that not only is it completely dark inside the colony, which is normal, but you're surrounded by hundreds of other bees that are pushing up against you. And when you look at the video, you'll see that there's a mass swarm of bees. They're not being aggressive or anything. It's just life inside a normal crowded colony. On top of that, it's vertical. So it's kind of like you're on a climbing wall and you're climbing up. There are these footholds that you can have, but you have to do this figure eight motion perfectly and very fast. Bees can run while doing this at 1 centimeter a second, which is the equivalent of one body length, one human body length a second. So you're racing up this climbing wall, communicating at the right angle, doing it in exactly the right way, surrounded by hundreds of bees in the total dark. Other researchers did an interesting study where they found that all young bees, before they begin to dance, follow older dancers. A part of this has to do with the biology of a honeybee. When bees get older, they change their jobs. When bees are first born as adult bees, they're nurse bees. They take care of other young bees. Later on, as they progress into their teenage years, although they only live about 35 to 45 days, but in the equivalent of that teen period, they start doing things like helping cleaning the nest. Eventually, they start taking out the trash because they have to keep the nest neat. And then they become guard bees, and then finally they become foragers. So the oldest bees in the colony are the forager bees. And researchers know that the younger bees always would follow the forager bees before they began to waggle dance themselves, which is really interesting. Could they be learning from the older experienced bees, especially given how complicated the waggle dance is?